Tell me.
3, 2.
Ready? Good afternoon to the young people. This is the week of the young child. I'm going to tell you a story. One story I'm going to tell you is about being kind to each other. Once there was a lady who had 2 children. The 2 children were girls. She loved one more than the other. So one day, the one that she didn't like that much started to walk along the road, and she wanted to go to the beach. So on her way to the beach, she met an elderly lady. So with the elderly lady called her, "Come here, girl. Come here. Come, scratch me back." The girl said, "Okay." So she scratched the lady's back. Later on, before that, her mother had given her a piece of dry bread, some water, no cake, no nothing. But the young girl was, she was glad for what her mother gave her, knowing that she didn't really like her that much and she liked the other sister. So on the way, as I said, she met the elderly lady. She scratched her back. She going down. She said, "Well, where you going?" She said, "I'm going to the beach." She said, "Well, if you're going to the beach, were you going for a sea bath?" She said, "Yes, I'm going for the sea bath." She said, "Well, before you go and take the sea bath, would you comb my hair?" The girl took the comb. She had a comb, and she combed the elderly lady hair. All was well. On her way back, the lady said, "Okay, would you mind? I have some chiggers in my foot." A long time ago, when people didn't wear shoes a lot, they got chiggers, things like little nuts in their feet. So she said, "Well, could you take out the chiggers out of my feet?" The girl stood there, and she took out the chiggers out of the old lady's feet. She said, "And I want you to give me a back scrub and a nice sea bath." The young lady, who had a nice countenance, did all that for her. And then she gave her the sea bath, and she went home. She said, "Well, I'm going to give you thanks. I have a prize for you." She said, "Well, what's the prize?" The lady didn't tell her what's the prize, but she had a wand, and she took the wand, and she touched the young lady, who was very nice to the elderly lady, and she touched her with the wand, and when she touched her with the wand, she flew like a dove, and she flew all over the place, and when she came back down, she was a girl again. So she went home, and she's so excited about what had happened to her on her way to take this sea bath. So she told her sister, the one that the mother liked a lot. And she said, "Guess what happened to me?" And she showed her that she could turn in this nice dove and fly wherever she wanted and do whatever she wanted up in the skies and then come back. So then the mother baked a cake, and she gave it to the girl that she had loved, her daughter. And she said, and some nice lemonade, and she gave it to her. She said, "You go ahead, because so that you could get your gift too." On the way down, the same elderly lady was there, and the other daughter, she said, "Young girl, where you going?" She said, "I'm going to take a sea bath." She said, "Okay, if you're going to take a sea bath, you mind combing my hair?" She said, "I didn't make it that natty. I ain't combing no hair." She said, "Okay, go right ahead." So as she walked, the lady said, "Well, I'm coming with you to the sea." She went with her to the sea. She said, "Will you take the chiggers out of my foot?" She said, "I'm not taking out any chigger because I didn't put them there." So, okay, all the time, she was being very unkind to the elderly lady. On her way, she said, "Well, since you're going for your sea bath, would you wash my back?" She said, "I'm not washing your back. I only come for one thing." She said, "Well, what's the one thing?" She said, "You give my sister such a good thought, and you make her into a beautiful dove, and I want the same thing." So the old lady said, "Well, okay, when you get your sea bath, and since you're not giving me one, I am going to wait and see what happens when you get out the water." So she came out the water, and the old lady said, "Well, stand next to me." And when she stand next to her, she took the wand, and she touched the girl. And when she touched the young lady, who was very insensitive to the old lady, she turned into a crab. And she was so angry. She walked sideways, backwards, and she firing her gundy, as we call it, the big gundy, after the old lady, but she couldn't catch her. But one thing good about it, the other sister could have turned into the dove and come back to a natural girl when she wanted to, but this one remained a crab. End of story, wheel bend, story end.